But I think that goes back to the negative mindset. The family is and driving this negative. Oh, you can't do that. We don't do that. That's not okay. You got to be a doctor, or you got to be a car salesman. And you're like, but I want to sell hot dogs. It's like, no, we don't do that. And so you're kind of like, oh, well, my family doesn't do that. I can't do that. And then you start putting that doubt in your mind. It's all about the mindset. If you have negative doubtfulness, what are you going to achieve if you're always like seeing the worst and stuff?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Out of the Box podcast, where Sia and I get to talk about outside of the box ideas. Today, we have an awesome guest here with us. His name is Ethan, and he has been with us in previous shows. So thank you, Ethan, for being here. And today, we're going to be talking about self-fulfilling prophecies. What is that? And so, Steele, if you want to kick us off, what is self-fulfilling prophecies?
All right. So in psychology, self-fulfilling prophecy is basically the idea that if you believe something in your mind strong enough, that you'll eventually kind of act in ways in your life that will help you achieve that goal. And of course, we have to keep it can't be like the craziest goal in the universe, but something simple like, so like a common example is like, I'm going to pass this test because I studied really hard. Like if you study really hard and you believe that you're going to do well on the test that's coming up, you're more likely to pass the test. Or something like with relationships. If you believe that if you have a depressed state of mind and you have a depressed view of yourself, of the world, and of the future, like the Beck cognitive triad of depression, then you're going to act in ways of depression. You're going to manifest that depression outwardly towards other people, and other people are going to pick up on it around you. So when you're walking around like down the hallway in school, or when you're interacting socially with other people and friends, family, whatever, they're going to pick up on that, depression that you're kind of projecting outward, because it's all in your mind. You believe that you're depressed. You believe that these negative things about yourself, the world, and the future. And so you don't have any hope. And so you're going to act like you don't have any hope. And then people are going to treat you. It's kind of weird how it happens that people start treating you as if you're less, maybe not of less value is the way to say it, but they treat you in different ways because you're acting in a specific way. Compared to if you're acting optimistic, people might treat you more favorably. But if you're acting negative and pessimistic, people are likely to kind of reinforce that. And it'll kind of confirm your belief, your self-fulfilling prophecy belief that the world is hopeless, that no one likes me, because you're projecting that. People are responding in a negative way because you're responding to them in a negative way. And so it just reinforces that belief, and it just gets more and more reinforced. And so I think of self-fulfilling prophecy basically as like a cycle. But it depends on the belief you have.
It almost takes like, it's almost how we establish stereotypes to a certain degree, right? Like stereotypes in the sense of like our own life, how sometimes we see something happen once, we see it happen twice, maybe let's say it's to a specific person or to a specific group, or and then we begin to kind of react in a certain way when we come across that group or when we come across that person. Almost like if somebody tells you like, hey, this person is a liar, don't believe them. And then when you go talk to them and they tell you like, yeah, I just won the my spelling bee, you're like, well, did this person really pass the spelling bee? Or you start maybe questioning
doubt in your mind.
You start seeing doubt everywhere. Yeah, once it's you start seeing it everywhere, and then you start thinking things, man.
So it almost like it's crazy because I think belief is so powerful. And to your point, belief is what eventually comes across through your actions, and how you are comes across through all of that, right? And so it's really important, I guess, in a way to be careful, or to be just self-aware that of where we're who we're listening to, right? Because if anything, like just how the example I gave, like somebody could say something and like, hey, don't listen to this person because they're a liar. Well, how do we know the person that is telling us it's not a liar themselves?
It's like,
So it's really
yeah.
like you said, and I think one of the things that I'm impressed, Theo, is that you always try to look at, research that has been based by, a specific organization, or, that's actually grounded in real life studies or things of that sort. Because if people say a lot of things on the internet nowadays, and
Yeah.
so it's sometimes kind of hard to pick out truth between that. And so it's almost like, who do you listen to, almost,
Who do you
right? And
trust?
so, because
Well, I mean,
eventually all of that information is how you live your self-fulfilling prophecy.
that's true. And that's why science is as close as you can get on peer-reviewed journals. I should be specific, on peer-reviewed journals, because there are scientific journals. I just saw today, working with my professor, that, they're not peer-reviewed. And we're like, okay, we're not going to cite this because we can't trust it. It wasn't peer-reviewed. That's why peer review means a group of scientists and other experts look at this research article and they all judge it harshly, critically, to see is it up to par with scientific standards, and if it's not accepted. That's why you trust peer reviewed journals more than you just trust what someone says, or like stuff like that. But like, what do you think about all this, Ethan? About, because self-fulfilling prophecy isn't just about that, but not just about like, not just on the science stuff, but also about like setting goals. If you really believe you can achieve your goals, then yeah.
Well, for an example, I can use like the Navy SEALs. I've listened to a lot of Robert O'Neill, Marcus Luttrell, David Goggins, a bunch of Navy SEALs who've gone through it. And Navy SEAL training, about out of 100% of people who go in, only 20% of people make it through. Like out of a class of like 150, maybe 20 or less actually make it through the class. And hearing them talk about like the hell week and all that, a whole week where they go without sleeping and they're always working out, and I mean, it's pretty much hell like they describe. And they say it's all mental. They say people quit because they're too focused on how hard it is, or just a bunch of mental games. They say it's physical, you're going to be exhausted, but if you put yourself in a down state of mind, like, oh my God, this is never going to end. Oh, I can't do this. And once you put that doubt in your mind, they say that's whenever people start to break. But if you keep it in your mind, like, this is temporary. Oh, this will end one day. I won't ever have to go through this again. This will all end shortly. Just like keep it in the mind, and it's all a mindset. Like they say, like then, okay, so there's that, the initial test to get into the SEALs, right? Only 80%, 20% out of the 100% make it. Then out of those 20%, there's another SEAL team that's harder to get on, and only 50% of the SEALs who try out for that make it. So out of the 20% who made it through, about 10% of those actually go on to a further harder training. And they say it's still a mental game, and they test it even further. But if you, like, the whole self-fulfilling thing is, if you believe, you can achieve. I'm pretty sure y'all probably heard that before. And as long as you believe in yourself and your abilities, you can conquer anything. It's kind of like the manifest destiny. Y'all know what that is, to where it's like, if you think about something every day and eventually it could come true. I mean, it can't be something completely far out of the blue, like, oh, one day I'll be have $1 million. One day I'll have $1 million. It's got to be a realistic.
What's crazy about that though? Like, that's kind of, you're not too far off, because like some people say like that rich people or people who became very wealthy, say that they believed in their hard work, and that those beliefs all those years kind of led them to not give up, because I feel like the people who fail are the ones that give up, but the people who don't give up, even though they fail like dozens or hundreds of times, are the ones that,
that's what they've said too. Yeah.
It's
not about how you fail. It's about how you come back and learn from your failures.
Well, even like, so I'm wondering how much is too far-fetched, because I know, like, to some degree, if you have a belief that you can become rich and you work hard, like if you don't act on it, then yes, you're probably never gonna, it might not happen. But if you really act on it and you take the steps necessary because you believe it's gonna happen, I feel like maybe it is possible. I don't know. I mean, same with like if you want to get married, meet a girl, have a girlfriend or whatever. if you don't believe it, you believe it's never going to happen, and then you're going to act in ways to where you kind of
for it not to happen. You're going to
you push
display
opportunities.
emotion.
Yeah, you display negative emotion. You push women away. You'd look past opportunities that are right in front of your eyes with women, and then you'd miss out. And you wonder, like, why am I still single? But it's like because your belief didn't match what you want. You know, you have to have a strong belief.
And I think another thing that comes with that, because, you know, let's say I dream every day that I'm going to become, you know, a basketball player. But like, let's say, for example, you know, the average, you know, basketball player tends to be 6'5", and I'm 6 foot, or, you know, 5 feet, you know, for example. You know, I can dream all day. I can, you know, try to believe all day, but maybe I'm just going to be a great jump shooter, you know, at, you know, a lower league basketball team, but I'm not going to make it.
You could dream it, but like if you're not actually going out and doing work, you know, because there's been short people in the NBA, but I think what you're trying to say is like, you know, you can dream all you want, but you have to put an effort towards what your dream is, right?
Yeah. But it's like both together too. Yeah, like if your actions are not matching what you're saying, then it's almost like, you know, wishing like you had candy, but then nobody sells candy in your in your
I get what you're saying,
area or something. Like there's like you gotta go to North America, or you gotta travel somewhere. Like it's not gonna just come at your door or something.
Yeah, there's like physical limitations that can stop us definitively from ever achieving certain goals, right? So
certain goals.
There are certain things. I'm trying to think of one. Like if you're blind, I mean, if you believe you're going to see it, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to eventually see, right? Like very severe physical limitations, I think you can't manifest those, you know? I think there are limitations on that, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and there's also like certain talents, right? Like, I guess, you know, it's also realizing that, you know, we're born with certain skills and talents. And let's say, you know, one person is just like, you know, they're super gifted in, you know, business, right? They're like, ever since they were little, they would put up lemonade stands everywhere they went. Like they were just keen business people, like drawn, like you just see the natural talent. And I think, you know, if the kid eventually wants to become a business person, you know, and then they have the talent for it, then I mean, they can go on and be very successful in that, right? If they're continuously like putting that mental goal in themselves. But I mean, I think also, like, let's say, for example, the same scenario, the kid is very talented and wants to put up lemonade stands and stuff like that, but the parents or the family or they're, you know, they don't allow them to do that, or they tell them like, why are you doing that stupid stuff? Like, I get, or against the culture, against the grain. And so it's almost like, well, that kid had potential to become a great business person, but they'll never be able to do that because their mental like game or their mental limitations set up by their family or their group of people is in a way limiting their potential or their
family. In that case,
they want to achieve,
limiting them. But I also think they're limiting themselves in some sense, because
if they allow it, to
use like their belief, they could choose to do a different business other than lemonade, you know.
But I think that goes back to the negative mindset. You know, the family is driving this negative. Oh, you can't do that. We don't do that. That's not okay. You got to be a doctor, or you got to be a car salesman. And you're like, but I want to sell hot dogs. It's like, no, we don't do that. And so you're kind of like, oh, well, my family doesn't do that. I can't do that. And then you start putting that doubt in your mind. It's all about the mindset. You know, if you have negative doubtfulness, what are you going to achieve if you're always like seeing the worst and stuff? But if you try to keep, if you try to keep positive, and I know it's extremely hard. Like, we all go through negatives and self-doubt. I mean, that's human nature. But the more, like, you have a better chance if you're staying positive, putting in those extra hours of studying or working out or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. If you're going the extra mile to make sure you can achieve it, like, say maybe you don't have talent, but what beats talent is hard work and consistency. You know, people with talent like to slack off, like, oh, that's easy for me, I can just do it easily, it comes naturally. There are some, don't get me wrong, some are that are talented will put in the extra mile which those make those people great. But then there's the ones who have all this talent and then just blow it off because they're not into the putting the extra mile. You know, they just think it's going to be handed to them. And I mean, I guess that goes back to the culture thing too, it where if you're being handed everything from day one, you're not going to feel the need to go strive to do more, you know?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all
everything's
about
been
the
given.
mindset, you know?
Yeah, it's been given.
And I think that sometimes like it's a coin of like both sides, because like some people like and it also like very much like perspective aspect, because there's some people that, for example, are born, you know, into a rich family, you know, and they become grateful about it, and then I guess, you know, they learn how to manage the business. But some people like are born into a rich family, and then they're, like you said, are giving everything all the time, so they never develop that hard work, the ethic to really work for something big, right? Because everything's been given. So
like they want to
just
create their own, you know, they don't want to just be handed down something like you know, that happens a lot with rich families, you know, they just give it to their kids, and then most of the time the businesses or something doesn't do well because the kid's so used to it being run great. But say the kid's like, okay, we have a successful tire shop business, well, now I want to get into a bakery business, you know? So they're going outside of their realm that they're used to, and they're trying to make it themselves, you know? So they can't just have it handed to them because they're a tire shop family. They're successful in tire shops, not in bakery. So if they want to be successful, they have to go the extra mile to be successful. No one's going to be able to hand it. Like maybe they hand them a loan of money to help them get started. But what good is a loan of money with no dream, no backup, no plan to actually grow the money? I mean, money, it can go away, but it can also create itself, you know? So it all goes into the mindset you have.
It's almost, it's really like, you know, having a set goal. Like, I think, you know, that's a like recurring theme that we've been talking about, the having a set goal that you eventually continue to grow into, right? You become the person that you dream of becoming, right? And so it's that journey of, in the process of getting to be that person. It's almost like developing a superhero, I would say. Like, and I've heard other people talk about that. It's like, if you could be a superhero, what kind of superpowers would you like to have? And it's like, well, I would like to be a great writer, or I would like to be, you know, an amazing, you know, artist, or something like that. Like my superpower would be to paint murals like out of nothing, or I don't know, like, you know, just different stuff like that. And it's like, you kind of retrace your steps back. Yeah, like I guess like if you want, like for those who are more practical in that sense, it's almost like, you know, putting the goal out there, right? The big dream, and then retracing your steps back. Well, like what skill set do I need to eventually like do this, right? And so I think a lot of people revert back to like creating vision boards and, you know, doing stuff like that, because they can visually see it, and they're like, okay, so that's where I want to be, that's who I want to become, and now how do I do that? And so it's like, once you put the how question, and you know, I think I talked about this the last time in another podcast, like the right questions draw us to the right path, right? The more questions we ask, the clearer we can become about, you know, how to maneuver or how to do something that we want to achieve, right? And so that's what creates the adventure, the curiosity. And I mean, I think that's, you know, a great way to kind of, or maybe like a set plan for people to grasp this a little bit more physically or tangibly.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Hang on, still. I have a question. Do you think self-accountability is a part that plays in it too, for like your self-fulfilling prophecy? Like, you have to hold yourself accountable towards everything, like the mindset of not only of wanting to be successful, but to hold yourself at a standard, what you think you should be at to be like acceptable, you know? Like what I'm saying? Like the self-accountability?
Yeah, holding yourself accountable. I think it depends on your goal. It depends on what your self-fulfilling prophecy is, you know? Like, you're probably not going to hold yourself accountable if your self-fulfilling prophecy is that you're depressed and you're always going to be alone, you're going to die alone or whatever. Someone in that mindset's not going to be, maybe I don't know. I mean, maybe in some way unconsciously they're telling them, they're holding themselves accountable to that belief and that they believe that, but they're not holding themselves accountable to anything positive in that sense. And they're not holding themselves, what we mean by self-accountable is like taking responsibility and taking action and taking steps in your life to move to the goals that you want. I would say if they believe they're going to die alone, well, they're not holding themselves accountable for taking steps to not die alone, to find someone, right? So, but if you're holding yourself accountable for like a different goal, like a career that you want to be a good writer, artist, or you want to go in the military, you're holding yourself accountable for that, then that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You do have to hold yourself accountable. And you're going to be actively doing it if you really want to do that. But what are your final thoughts on that, Ethan, and then Jose?
That makes a lot of sense, because like if you're holding yourself accountable to something that's irrational or not realistically achievable in, let's say, a certain amount of time frame or something, I think that makes sense. Like you wouldn't like hold yourself accountable, or if you did, it could be self-destructing, like, oh, I didn't meet this goal, and so now you're thinking negatively about it. But I think a lot of it comes from just your mindset. If you believe and you work hard to what you believe in, you can achieve anything.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, like you said, if you hold yourself accountable and you don't achieve the level of success that you wanted, let's say, not taking hot showers, just taking cold showers for 2 months or for a year or for the rest of your life. If you miss a day, you're like, oh man, like you feel bad about it, even though it's not going to harm anyone. I know, but sometimes that can develop like a negative voice, right? Like we're trying to achieve all these things, but then, if we're just thinking about things like mechanically and stuff like that, well, like I wasn't able to achieve this, but like we don't take into account that we're humans too. Like yesterday you had a really bad day or something happened externally, and one has to like take those things into consideration too. And like, well, I can't work 18 hours a day nonstop. Like I'm also human. I need social interactions, or I need food, I need certain things. And so it's also like you said, realistic to who you are. I would say like realistic goals. Yeah, like realistic goals to who you are, like realistically, in the sense like, okay, is there a possibility? I think it's a good question, is to ask oneself, is there a possibility that I can achieve this? And then say like, what things have I looked at in my life that make me realize that I can eventually accomplish this? It's like, okay, well, when I was little, I could do this. And when I was, in college, I was interested in that. So you can start kind of putting things together to kind of develop a plan for the future. But if one says like, well, I want to be a great cook and I've never had a history of cooking and I've never really been drawn to it, then it's like, well, it's kind of like a hit and miss. Like, well, do you really like cooking? Is there people in your life that enjoy cooking? Like that could maybe teach you? Like, it's really like, I guess, being realistic to oneself, right? And not thinking like crazy. Like it's good to dream, but in the context of yourself, right? So, all right. Well, I guess those. Did you have any last thoughts, Steele?
Oh no, that was it. What about you, Ethan?
I like that. I mean, it makes sense. You got to be rational. You can't think irrationally, because nothing irrational will ever work. You got to be realistic.
Limitations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're human. You're not a cyborg or something. You got to think realistically.
True. Well, sounds good. Well, thank you everyone for staying tuned with us till the end of this podcast. If you really enjoyed this video, this podcast episode, please leave a like down below, and also Let us know what you thought of this. What are your ideas on self-fulfilling prophecies? And if you do enjoy this content that we provide, also subscribe to our channel for more information like this. So until next time, we'll see you soon.